Marcus Hale had survived collapsing plasma conduits, malfunctioning gravity coils, and one particularly judgmental robot medic. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for standing in front of an alien queen who glowed like a sunrise having a dramatic moment. Her presence filled the chamber with a soft, shimmering light that made everything look elegant, including Marcus, who was fairly sure he currently resembled a panicked Earth squirrel caught in an airlock. He'd only meant to help stabilize the energy core during the diplomatic crisis. A spark, a shield malfunction, a split-second choice. He dove in, redirected the overload, and expected at worst a stern lecture about safety protocols. Instead, the Queen of Velira 9 had approached him with tears in her eyes, actual floating crystalline tears that defied gravity like they were too majestic to fall, and declared that he had saved her life. That alone was overwhelming. The next part was catastrophic, because Velirans had traditions, deep, ancient, carved into their culture traditions, and apparently saving the queen meant receiving the most sacred reward her people could offer. Marcus was still hoping that meant a medal, or a coupon, maybe a nice fruit basket, but the queen raised her arms, luminous patterns rippling across her skin, and announced with solemn pride that she would give him her only girl. His brain short-circuited so hard he was surprised sparks didn't come out of his ears. Princess Lyrana stepped forward with a grace that should have come with warning signs. Her features were almost human, almost. Her long ears extended upward like slender, silver-edged crescents, sweeping back slightly with each shift of emotion. They were mesmerizing, expressive, too honest. Marcus quickly learned that when they angled forward, she was curious. When they drooped slightly, she was concerned. When they twitched, she was amused, usually at him, which he tried not to take personally. Now those elegant ears were tilted in a way that suggested she was trying not to laugh. "This must be a misunderstanding," Marcus managed, but it came out high-pitched, like his voice was attempting to escape without him. The queen smiled. "He is humbled by the honor. How charming." "No, wait. Humbled isn't the right actually, okay, maybe humbled, but also confused, terrified, sweating. Lots of sweating." A small group of royal advisors murmured with approval, believing this to be a traditional human ceremony of gratitude. One of them even wiped his eyes. Lyrana took a graceful step toward Marcus, her gaze calm, her ears softly raised. "Do not be afraid. The ceremony is symbolic, mostly. Mostly. Tradition requires us to spend time together in the sanctuary of bonding," she said, as if discussing weather patterns, "to determine whether our spirits align." Marcus nodded slowly. "So, like a cosmic compatibility test." "Yes, with glowing plants that react to emotional frequencies." "Emotional glowing, right, of course. And perhaps trials of cooperation, and survival, and shared introspection." "Absolutely, survival. Nothing says thank you like almost dying a second time." To his horror, she smiled at that, actually smiled, and bioluminescent threads shimmered faintly along her neck, trailing like soft stars. The entire room seemed to brighten in response. Marcus felt his face heat and prayed no one noticed, which was pointless because a nearby advisor whispered, "Ah, yes, the human performs a blush of acceptance." The queen clapped her hands with regal delight. "Prepare the sanctuary. The bonding shall begin at once." Marcus barely had time to whisper, "I didn't accept anything," before the royal attendants guided him toward the exit, treating him like a very honored, yet very fragile, piece of cargo. Lyrana walked beside him, her steps silent, her presence steady. "I apologize," she said quietly once they were out of the ceremonial hall. "My mother means well. She believes tradition brings clarity." "I believe tradition is trying to kill me," Marcus whispered. "Nicely, with hospitality." Her ears twitched amusement. "You did save her life. To Velirans, that is not a small act." He sighed. "I just reacted. Anyone would have." "No," she said softly, "not anyone." They traveled through a corridor of floating crystal panes that reflected their images in soft distortions. making Marcus look taller, shorter, wider, noodle-shaped, each reflection worse than the last. Lyrana kept glancing at him with the polite concern of someone observing a creature that might trip over its own shadow. When they reached the chamber where the sanctuary transport awaited, a spiraling platform of light, humming softly, Marcus swallowed hard. "Lyrana," he murmured, "be honest. How dangerous is this whole bonding thing?" She considered, her ears shifting into a thoughtful angle. "Danger is relative. For example, humans seem fragile, but you survived a plasma surge with only minor burns." "That was not minor." "Then this will be moderately challenging, but I will assist you." "Oh good, I feel so reassured." Her lips curved slightly. "Your humor is strange." "Thank you, I try." She extended a hand, not a ceremonial command, not an order, just a gesture. Simple, human-like, unexpectedly gentle. "Come," she said, "we will face the sanctuary together." Marcus hesitated only a moment before taking her hand, and as the transport activated, lifting them into a cascade of shimmering energy, he realized two things with bone-deep certainty. First, he was absolutely not prepared. Second, neither was she. The sanctuary of bonding looked, at first glance, like someone had attempted to design a romantic retreat after binge-watching nature documentaries and misinterpreting every single one. The habitat floated over an endless ocean of shimmering light, its surface rippling like liquid stars caught in a slow, celestial tide. Inside, glowing plants lined the curved walls, pulsing softly with colors Marcus was reasonably sure didn't exist on Earth's spectrum. One plant in particular extended a leafy tendril toward him, sniffed him with what he hoped wasn't actually a mouth, and promptly wilted. Lyrana knelt beside it, pressing her palm gently to its bioluminescent surface. "It dislikes anxiety frequencies," she explained. "I'm not anxious," Marcus said, sweating. "I'm emotionally hydrated." The plant pulsed a sickly blue, which he suspected was the universal color for Lyre. Still, the habitat was beautiful in an unnerving way. Floating lanterns drifted past overhead, each holding a tiny orb of energy that hummed like a content bee. Low gravity made everything feel buoyant, even emotions, apparently. When Marcus frowned, a cluster of vines behind him stiffened like offended snakes. Lyrana gently nudged him forward. "We should begin with alignment," she said. "Sit with me." They settled on a platform that rose slowly from the floor, adjusting its shape to cradle them at a comfortable angle. Lyrana sat gracefully, while Marcus looked like someone who had been invited to meditate but kept waiting for the floor to vanish beneath him. "It reads emotional patterns," she explained, placing her hand on a glowing indentation. "Honesty strengthens the bond, deceit dampens it." Marcus placed his hand on the opposite side. The platform vibrated lightly. "Okay, but what if I'm accidentally deceitful? Like if I tell the plant I'm fine and my body disagrees? Then it may release pollen." "What does the pollen do?" "It encourages clarity." "That sounds comforting." "It is not." Before he could ask more, the platform brightened. Lyrana closed her eyes, serene, her long ears tilting slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. Marcus tried to mirror her calm, but ended up thinking about whether this machine could detect how hard his heart was thumping. After a moment she opened her eyes. "It says we are compatible in curiosity." "Oh good," Marcus said. "Curiosity is my best trait, right after fear-based decision-making." The plants nearby gave a soft pulse of green, approval. He wasn't sure whether to be proud or worried. They moved on to the next task, cooperation. As they walked deeper into the habitat, the glowing plants shifted color, creating a path of golden light. Lyrana walked with quiet confidence, her ears occasionally swiveling toward distant sounds. Marcus followed, stepping cautiously around a flower that looked like it wanted to debate him. At a crystalline archway, a panel lit up with symbols. Lyrana read them, her fingers gliding across the air. "We must activate the harmonizer together, with synchronized intention." "I can do synchronized." As long as you do all the work and I just pretend. She gave him a look that was both amused and deeply unimpressed. Place your hand here. He did. The harmonizer glowed, waiting. Synchronized intention, she reminded him. Marcus took a breath. Okay, my intention is please don't explode. The device responds to emotional focus, not spoken words. Oh, then my emotional focus is also, please don't explode. Lyrana closed her eyes and centered herself. Marcus tried to do the same. He was almost successful, right up until he heard a faint humming noise behind him, turned instinctively and broke synchronization. The harmonizer flared a bright white, then fired a harmless but dramatic burst of light that launched him backward into a cushion-like plant. The plant squeaked. Marcus screamed. Lyrana blinked at him. You startled it. It startled me. It sensed that as well, she said, gently helping him up. Despite the mishaps, their progress continued. They learned to move together through shifting gravity fields, where Lyrana glided gracefully while Marcus accidentally cartwheeled past her like a tumbleweed auditioning for a ballet. They learned to read the emotional plants. Green meant calm, pink meant bonding, orange meant someone was about to fall through a low-gravity pocket again, usually Marcus. Slowly, the awkwardness softened. They spoke more. Lyrana told him about growing up under the weight of Veliran expectations, the way every gesture she made was watched, measured, interpreted. Marcus told her about Earth, about music played loud in tiny apartments, about food trucks, about missing home but somehow feeling like he wasn't being swallowed by alien royalty anymore. Her ears shifted delicately as she listened, their movement a language Marcus was beginning to understand. When he joked, they twitched with amusement. When he mentioned being afraid, they drooped faintly, sympathy. When he described the ocean on Earth, they angled forward in genuine curiosity. By the time dusk settled artificial, created by the habitat dimming its own glow, Marcus felt something he hadn't expected, ease, which was immediately destroyed by the sudden blare of an alarm. Lyrana spun toward the sound, her ears snapping upright. Intrusion detected. Intrusion. The ocean of light outside rippled violently. Silhouettes moved beneath the surface, drones shaped like drifting skyfish, but far too controlled, too deliberate. Marcus swallowed. Please tell me the habitat just ordered takeout. It did not. The drones breached the surface, launching upward with predatory precision. Lyrana stepped in front of Marcus, her bioluminescence brightening in sharp streaks, a protector by instinct. Marcus straightened beside her. Okay, he muttered, so cooperation round two. She glanced at him and for the first time truly smiled. Yes, together. And as the first drone shattered through the light barrier, they moved as one, ready to face whatever came next. The drones hit the sanctuary with blinding streaks of blue light, scattering shards of energy that fizzled against the habitat's shields. Marcus had no idea what he was doing. He was fairly sure his combat strategy consisted mostly of don't die. Yet he found himself tearing open a maintenance panel and yanking out a cluster of glowing cables like he'd been born doing it. Sparks flew. Lyrana leapt past him, striking one drone with a narrow arc of condensed light that extended from her wristband. Her movements were precise, almost musical, like the drones were simply misbehaving children she needed to correct. Marcus, she called, flipping out of the drone's reach, can you disable their navigation field? He held up a fistful of wires. I can disable something. The cables in his hands pulsed violently. The drones jittered, their flight patterns hiccuping as if they were reconsidering life choices. One spiraled downward, missing Marcus by a breath. He flinched. That was intentional, he lied, loud enough for the glowing plants to vibrate in unimpressed shades of blue. The last drone lunged toward Lyrana with predatory precision. Marcus didn't think, he just moved. The improvised cable cluster threw out a charge, knocking the drone off course long enough for Lyrana to deliver a final, decisive strike. The creature cracked, collapsed, and dissolved into harmless motes of light. Silence followed, broken only by Marcus's heavy breathing and a single glowing plant making a noise suspiciously similar to applause. Lyrana approached him, her bioluminescent patterns settling into warm hues. "You saved me." He wiped sweat from his brow, just returning the favor, preferably without more flying murderfish. Her ears tilted in gratitude, the softest curve. "We should return to the capital. This attack was not random." They stepped onto the transport platform, and Marcus felt the shift in her posture, alert, purposeful. He wasn't the same person he'd been when he first stood trembling before her mother. Somewhere between nearly getting eaten by a sentient fern and fighting drones with improvised space wiring, something inside him had changed. He wasn't just reacting anymore. He was choosing. The capital was chaos when they arrived. Advisors rushed through the crystalline halls, murmuring about rogue factions, broken traditions, and scandalous implications of a princess bonding with a human. When they entered the throne chamber, the queen turned toward them, her light flickering with visible relief. "Lyrana, my child, you are safe. And you, Marcus Hale." She stepped closer, studying him with eyes that saw more than he wanted to admit. "You protected her." Marcus cleared his throat. "Technically, we protected each other. Mostly she protected me. I contributed wires." Lyrana stepped forward. "Mother, the attack was orchestrated by those who oppose the bonding tradition. They believe it weakens us. They targeted us because Marcus and I were beginning to succeed." The queen's gaze shifted with something like recognition. "I see." Marcus felt the weight of the moment settle around them. This was the knot at the center of everything. The tradition, the reward, the ceremony, the expectations that had pushed them together. And now, finally, he understood what had been bothering him from the start. He stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I need to say something." His voice didn't crack. "Progress. I'm honored by your customs, really, but I was never meant to be a gift, and Lyrana shouldn't have to live her life fulfilling a tradition just because I made one stupidly heroic decision." The hall fell silent, except for a single advisor who quietly dropped his tablet in shock. Lyrana looked at him with a mix of surprise and something else, something warm. The queen studied him for a long moment. Finally, her light dimmed to a softer glow. "You speak truthfully, too truthfully perhaps, but truth is needed." She turned to her daughter. "Lyrana, is your bond with him forged of duty or choice?" Lyrana's ears lowered, not in fear but in the honesty she rarely showed. "Mother, I do not want a ceremonial bond, but I do want him beside me." Marcus let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "For the record, same here, though I would also accept a medal, for tradition." A ripple of laughter moved through the hall, genuine, light. Even the queen smiled. "Then the ancient bond is dissolved," she declared. "Let unity be offered not as gift, but as choice." The advisors began whispering frantically about political consequences, alliances, treaties, logistics of not turning a human into royalty. But the queen silenced them with a single wave. "Let the world see strength in chosen partnership," she said. Everything after that blurred into movement. Security reports, diplomatic statements, more glowing plants reacting dramatically to Marcus's emotions. But through it all, Lyrana remained beside him. Not as an obligation, as something new, fragile, and real. When the chamber finally emptied, Marcus and Lyrana stood by the balcony overlooking the capital's luminous skyline. She leaned slightly closer, her long ears relaxed in a way he'd never seen before. "You've changed," she said. He shrugged. "Well, I now know 8 ways to rewire alien machinery using only panic." Her quiet laugh sent tiny glimmers down her neck. "Not what I meant." He looked at her, truly looked. "I guess I just stopped being afraid of the wrong things." "And what are the right things?" He smiled faintly. "Losing what matters. Even if I didn't expect it to matter." Her hand brushed his, gentle, deliberate. "Then we begin our own path." Outside, the stars of Valera 9 shimmered like scattered lanterns. Inside, the last loose threads of tradition drifted quietly into history. And for the first time since this strange journey began, Marcus felt not overwhelmed, not trapped, but exactly where he should be, standing beside the woman who was once a reward but now, undeniably, a choice.